Jai Jayananda Prabhu ki Jai Nitai Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Today, as promised, for those of you who saw the advertisement on Facebook, we are going to be speaking about Jayananda Prabhu, one of Prabhupada's dearmost disciples. Today is his disappearance day. He left his body in Los Angeles, California. And I am going to try to speak not so much from what I read, but I'm going to try to speak from my personal experience because I had the fortune of being with him when I was a young devotee. So to preface this discussion, I want to give you a little history. Not history, I want to give you a geography lesson so you understand where I met him. If you're American, you won't need this. Maybe you will, I don't know. We're not good at geography. So, the United States is bordered on the west coast by the Pacific Ocean, on the east coast by the Atlantic Ocean. On the north, it's bordered by Canada, on the south by Mexico. I became a devotee in a place called Berkeley. Berkeley is just east of San Francisco. There's a bay, here's Berkeley, here's San Francisco, there's a bay in between, and you drive over a bridge about 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. That takes you into the Berkeley-Oakland area. It's another place called Oakland. You may have heard of Oakland. And so that's where I joined. And then if we drive maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes, or half hour, we would end up at the San Francisco temple, drive across the bay. San Francisco, if you go west, there's Pacific Ocean. If you go east, you start driving over a bay, you come to a place called Berkeley. This is in California. This is in Northern California. You have Northern California, Southern California. So Giriraj Swami lives in Southern California, San Jose, by Jayananda Prabhu in that group, that's Northern California, San Francisco, Silicon Valley, so on. So I was coming to the temple in 1969 in Berkeley. And once or twice while I was coming, I visited San Francisco temple. That's the original temple. So I moved into the temple in 1970. Then in, I believe it was May, I was asked to go to San Jose, and San Jose is maybe 100 or so miles. Miles is, a kilometer is 0.6 miles, so you just, 100 miles is like 60 kilometers. No, 100 miles, no. 100 kilometers is 60 miles, so I was about 100 miles, San Jose. So I was asked to go there with several other devotees to start a temple. That was in May of 1970. And at this time, Jayananda Prabhu was in San Francisco. That's where he joined, and he came there once or twice to help us organize something to help the Rath Yatra festival. Hare Krishna. I hope I didn't lose you all, because don't send me birthday wishes now, because it actually, I get so many, it's taking us off the broadcast. If we keep going off the broadcast, that's what's happening. So, yeah, today's a really bad day because today I'm 70. Yesterday I was 69. 70 is like so old. So yesterday was a good day. Today is like, oh no. 70. That's like really old. Of course, Prabhupada came to America when he was 69. So we're kind of at the same age when Prabhupada started. In any case, as I said, I went to San Jose. We started a temple there. That was the first temple in San Jose. It was near the university, just a few blocks. But around August, the president there went to San Francisco to be the president, and shortly thereafter, he asked if I could come. So I was in San Francisco in August, and this was or July. Sometime I was there at the time of Rath Yatra, and so this is summer of 1970. You can see on Following Prabhupada, there's videos of that Rath Yatra. I'm actually in there. I don't know if you could recognize me. Because I had hair in a Sikha, so then you would think, oh, he has hair in a Sikha, that can't be Mahatma, it must be somebody else. But that was my first long-range experience with Jayananda Prabhu, was I lived in the temple, and he lived in the temple. There was about 25 brahmacharis living in the temple, and the temple was only a basement, a kitchen, and a temple room. So we were packed up tight. So we're kind of on top of one another 24/7, so you got to know everybody. And I want to not only describe to you what Jayananda did, but more, I would like to give you my impressions on an emotional level and how it affected me. And of course, often when you remember someone, it even becomes a little more clear with the experience we have in life, and it becomes more clear how exalted that person is, or in this case, was. So obviously, those of you who joined after I think he left in 1976, who joined after 1976, or didn't have the opportunity to see him, have only heard something about him. And it was very special to be in his presence. And it's a lot like, when people ask what it was like to be with Prabhupada. When they ask that question, inherent in that question is just the sense of being with Prabhupada must have been unique. And it must have been very powerful, and it must have been very inspiring and also purifying. And it must have changed you, at least while you were in his presence, must have changed you in many ways. Well, Jayananda was like that also. His presence actually changed people. And it's such a good example for us. Because Jayananda was not, he joined as an engineer, so he was educated, but his persona was not that of an intellectual. He may have been one, but he didn't come across that way. His persona was, whatever we have to do, let's do it. And he would never complain. He would just do it. That was his persona. Whatever it is, just do it. And I love Prabhupada, and whatever Prabhupada wants, let's just do it. And we don't think about the difficulty, the austerity. We just do it, and I love doing it. And if it's difficult, I just love it more. That was who he was. That was what you got by being with him. It's just like whatever has to be done, you do it. So it's not that he didn't preach, and it's not that he didn't have realizations, but the realizations were coming, and the preaching was coming from that platform. When I think of him, I think, here's a person who, whatever Prabhupada wanted, he would do it. And he would be happy to do it. And the more difficult it was, the happier he would be. Whereas, like with us sometimes, if it's difficult, we say, really, can someone else do it? Do I really have to do it? And you never heard that from Jayananda. And it wasn't like, oh, this, can a bhakta do this? We need this done. Oh, that's bhaktas. The bhaktas do that, not senior devotees. You have to remember, he was not only a senior devotee, but he was older than everyone. So he was senior in years. I think he was 10, 12 years older than everyone when he joined. See, he joined in 1968. So he already, been working, he already had a degree, and most of the people joining were joining at the age of 20, 19, 21, 22. So he probably was 28, 29, 30. So he was a senior person in years. And he was also senior devotee, having joined in San Francisco Temple, I believe, started in 1967. He came 68. And so when I was in that temple, as far as I can remember, he was the senior-most in age and the senior-most devotee. And one of the qualities of a devotee of this stature And not only is Jayananda the only one in ISKCON of this stature, but I think he holds a special place kind of in the Hall of Fame of humility. I mean, there are many humble devotees, but if we could only install one in the Hall of Fame of humility, I think he would be the one we would install. It was like his humility was otherworldly. And what the point I was making is that if you didn't know who he was, and let's say you just came to the temple, by meeting him and talking to him, you wouldn't know that he was senior, that he was older, that he was in charge, he commanded respect of everyone, because that wasn't his persona. So you wouldn't be able to distinguish him from the devotee that joined a month ago. Generally, when a devotee first joins, they're quite humble because they can't get puffed up about anything because they really don't know anything. Isn't it? Like when you first join, you're just trying to figure out how to keep your underwear tied if you're a brahmachari. I mean, everything's different, and how to eat with your right hand and only wipe yourself with your left hand, and you're just trying to cope with everything. And so you're humbled by the whole experience, and you haven't really done anything yet that you can be proud of. You're not initiated. You're barely just keeping up. If we didn't wake you up, you wouldn't get up. It's like that. So if you met a new bhakta and you met him, he had every reason to be proud. You wouldn't know the difference. His persona was very much like a new bhakta, kind of like innocent, nothing to be proud of. So that is what, for me, was one of the most outstanding qualities, that as he took on more and more responsibilities and so-called became famous for them. He was famous. He did many things. As he became famous for them, he never showed it. And he never tried to get position. This is also really important, because Prabhupada said we should never, if you come to ISKCON and your goal is to get position, he said you completely misunderstood ISKCON, you completely misunderstood spiritual life. This is not what it's about at all. You don't come, he said, it's not Vaishnavism to join ISKCON so I can get something from it, so I can get a position. And he had opportunities to get position, but he never took them. He never wanted to take sannyas. Because when you take sannyas, everyone is going to offer respects to you, especially in those days. Because there were only a very small number of sannyasis. Prabhupada was the only guru. So they got lots of respect and special treatment, and he didn't like that. He didn't want to be treated specially. So he was so humble that the test of humility is that you can put a person in any position and they don't change. That's the real test of humility. Like, if I'm not humble, I might be humble as a young bhakta because I have nothing to be proud of. But when I get promoted, or when I become the number one book distributor of the year in ISKCON, or I become a temple president and my temple is doing better than any other temple, then I have reasons to become proud. And it's at that time, generally, that most of us become a little proud, or become very proud, or become arrogant. We've seen that. It happens. That, in the life of Jayananda, that was an impossibility. It wasn't part of his being that could ever happen to him. It's not the way he thought. It's not the way he existed. So, and everybody saw that, and everybody knew it. It was obvious because he was so different from everyone. In other words, if someone is successful at something and they remain as humble as the day they join, you cannot not notice that. It's quite obvious, because nobody, it's very rare. I don't want to say nobody, but it's very rare that anybody's like that. We all become a little proud if we succeed. Even if we're trying to be humble, we say, no, Prabhu, it's Krishna's mercy. Oftentimes we do that just to make sure we don't become proud. Just like, okay, I'm going to become proud. I better say it's Krishna's mercy. Otherwise, I'll start thinking it's my mercy. Isn't it? With him, that wasn't even a possibility remotely. It would never happen. And so everybody saw that. It was so obvious that this person, he's not like us. He's not like anyone we've seen. He's different. He doesn't become affected by position. He doesn't become affected by praise. And no matter how long he remains a devotee, no matter how exalted he becomes and how much association he has with Prabhupada and whatever service he does, he's still taking out the trash. He's still under the car fixing it. And he's not saying, why do I have to take out the trash? I'm the oldest devotee here. This should be someone else. Someone else should be doing it. It's like, how should we say this? It's like, if you saw the trash and you didn't jump on it and take it out, he would take it out. You had to beat him to it. It's just like if it had to be done, he just would do it. That was his mood. There wasn't any kind of, why should I take out the trash? I'm a senior devotee. It's just, oh, the trash has to be taken. Let's take it out. Someone has to do this. Okay, let's do it. And it was almost to the point where it was like, oh, why should the bhaktas have to do it? I'll do it. I'm an older devotee. This is what I should do. And we tend to think the opposite way. Why should I do it? I'm an older devotee. The bhaktas should do it. Isn't it? He was pretty much the opposite. No, I'll do it. You don't have to do it. You're a new devotee. You shouldn't have to take out the trash. You shouldn't have to serve this way. I'll do it. So that was one aspect that you couldn't miss. And everything about him was contagious. So if you were proud and you were in his association, you would immediately, within spending a little time with him, you would immediately understand this person is different. He has no false ego. He has none. This is the first person I've ever met with no false ego. And you would be in shock, but it would affect you. It would humble you, because in his presence, to be proud even a little bit would stand out. And it would stand out as entirely inappropriate in the presence of this sadhu, this saint, who lacks any false ego, for you to exhibit any yourself. So people in his presence became humbled by this extreme exhibition, which was natural, this extreme natural exhibition of his humility, which is it's just who he was. It wasn't an act. It wasn't something he was working on. It wasn't like I have to, I'm only on stage 3 of humility. I have to move it up. He didn't think like that. He never thought he was. Maybe he did think that way. He didn't think he was humble, but that's a sign of a humble person. But it was just who he was naturally. So this is such an important point in terms of the effectiveness of preaching, that we know and we've heard it, that actions speak louder than words. And we those who had Jayananda's association, 108% will swear on the Bhagavad Gita that his association changed them drastically in ways they will swear that no other person could outside of Prabhupada. It's just because he was like, in many ways, he was like the antithesis of what we were. We were all proud. We were young, foolish, just kind of fanatical, whatever. And then here you have this sadhu who's not affected by all this, not affected by the things that normal people are affected by. And we, being young devotees, were affected by so many of these normal things. And here you're around this person who's not like that. And it's so obvious he's not like that, that it's like a light shining at you. And so by being in his presence, you realize, oh, I'm not like him. Whereas if you're around people who are kind of like you, you don't, it's more difficult to realize what you're like. You know, let's say you're wearing a white shirt and I'm wearing a white shirt, but my shirt was just bleached. And it's so white that you look at your shirt and go, actually, my shirt is not really white. I thought it was. Your shirt is like pure white. Mine is not pure white. I didn't know that. So that's what it was like being with him. You saw certain qualities of as we're saying, humility and just absolute dedication on the highest level without complaining ever, without ever thinking anything's too difficult. It's just if Prabhupada wants it, we do it. You're next to that. So what are you going to think when you're next to that? You're going to think, oh, I'm not like that. Where you may have never noticed that. And now you notice it. But that's only half of it. The other half is being in that presence is transforming. I don't know if you've ever been around a person who has no false ego or very little. Well, you'll say, yes, my Guru Maharaj and this and that. Okay. When you're around, okay, I don't want to say, I don't know if you've ever been. When you're around such a person, it affects you deeply. Deeply affects you. Not only just in recognizing, no, I'm not humble, but in inspiring you to be humble. It's like, I would say, in Jayananda Prabhu's association, I would say it was very difficult to be proud. It was like he was the sunshine of humility, and everyone who got around his sunshine of humility just manifested humility. Not their own humility, they were reflecting his humility. And there are a lot of rough and tough people who became devotees at that time, and they will all swear that his association transformed them from very, very rough and what we say in America, rough around the edges people, but rough also in the heart, to very soft, kind, considerate, gentle, and humble people, because that's who he was. So I think this is extremely important in the context of what we're doing to try to make the world Krishna conscious. And when we have these examples of people coming and meeting Jayananda and transforming in his association, these are the like beacons of light for us to follow. This is the direction we need to go. I think I can learn Prabhupada's books. I can learn to preach. But if I'm not exemplifying it, it's going to be very difficult for the people I'm preaching to do it, because they need to see examples. And Jayananda Prabhu was not what you would call, an intellectual great philosopher. He was so maybe he was, but he was so much into service that he didn't spend a lot of time studying. He always felt, I should do service for Prabhupada. But his example had probably had a more powerful effect than any amazing class we ever heard. You can't replace an example like that in terms of what it can do for your heart. So I want to stay in this mood of just like the impression it had on me. So our schedule in that temple, as I remember, we didn't seem to get to sleep till like around 11 o'clock, and we got up every morning at 4. So the average devotee in that temple was sleeping 5 hours. We were very inspired, because Prabhupada didn't even sleep maybe 3 hours. So we thought we have to be like Prabhupada. And so we really pushed ourselves, pushed. Maybe we slept 6, maybe we slept 5.5. But what I remember was Jayananda Prabhu was always the last one to go to sleep, probably because he was finishing cleaning the last pot and locking the door and turning the lights out and so on. That was just his nature. By nature, that's what he would do. He would just, you didn't have to ask him. If he was just there, he would do it. And he was up every morning at 3 o'clock. That was his schedule. Every day. I never saw him take extra rest. Maybe he did. But that's what he did. 11 o'clock, he would always be the last one to go to sleep and always be the first one to go out, to get up. And he was the driver. And our schedule was, we had the morning program, we'd clean the temple, and somewheres around 11:30 we would go out for Harinam Sankirtan, and we would return about 12. And he was kind of the leader of the Harinam party, and maybe not the leader, but he was the organizer. So he would drive the van, get everybody out. And this is interesting. You'll find this funny. Maybe you'll find this funny or strange or just interesting. In those days, we did not have independent book distribution. We didn't even distribute books. It was BTG distribution. In those days, Back to Godhead magazine came out every month. And that was what we distributed. That was the only thing we distributed. And I think they were printing 1 million or more, at least 1 million. At least that's what I remember Prabhupada wanted to do, is print 1 million. And so we would go out in Harinam. There were about 23 to 25 of us living in the temple in San Francisco. And there's a street called Market Street, which is like, it's kind of like the Fifth Avenue of San Francisco, and Market and Powell. And so we would just go to that corner and we would chant for 6 hours. Occasionally, a few devotees would go off and take another party and walk around, but that was the main place. And in the evenings, we had another place, but that was like noon. I can't remember when we ate our meal. I think we ate our meal. Yeah, now I remember. This is crazy. Okay, this is a little sidelight history of ISKCON. You know when we ate breakfast in that temple? This is amazing. We ate breakfast after Mangal Arati. And we were given half an apple, half an orange, 8 chickpeas, and half a cup of yogurt at like 5:30. Hare Krishna. You want to join that temple? Then I remember like 10:15, 10:30, it was lunchtime. And lunchtime was dal and chapatis. And you also got dal as well as chapatis. And then after that, you got dal and chapatis. And the only rice sabji you saw were a few grains of rice from the maha and one leaf of a sabji. We got nothing but dal and chapati. As much dal and chapati as you wanted. Big whole wheat chapatis. And that was like 10:30. And then we went out. We took that, 10:30, 11. And we'd already cleaned the temple after class, and then we went out. So, this is how book distribution worked in those days. We'd all be lined up in one long line, and we'd have these like amazing kirtans, just, going, 6 hours, just go. Kirtan, go for half hour, stop, start a new melody, go, stop. It's usually like one devotee was leading the whole. That was the amazing thing about those days. That was like one devotee would lead the kirtan all day, and then the next day, the same devotee. And that was a devotee named Madhuvisa, who Prabhupada said was the emperor of kirtan. So, what we would do is we'd all be in a line and we'd all be chanting. And then one or two devotees would just be on either side of the Sankirtan party, and they would distribute magazines. And this will sound funny to you, but in those days, distributing magazines was considered like, do I have to do it? Can someone else do it? I don't really want to do it. I'm kind of introverted, and I'd rather just chant. So the whole thing was, it's like, how could we say? It's like, let's say, this is the ultimate kirtan mela, and every kirtanier in the Hall of Fame of Kirtan is there, and we say, can you go outside and pass out invitations to the kirtan mela? It was something like that. No, I want to be in the kirtan. That was just the mood then. Kirtan was everything. And in those days, I mean, seriously, okay, this is how you understand. In those days, you'd go out for 6 hours and you distribute like 8 magazines. You know, so that's like one magazine every 50 minutes. That's why nobody wanted to do it. Because we're in dhotis and shaved heads, and you know that was like weird in 1970. And then, excuse me, sir, here's a magazine about love of God, bhakti yoga, and I'm like, no, thank you. It was just we were just preaching straight. So by statistical calculations, it was like one person every 50 minutes might take. So how many people would you approach before you got that one person? You could imagine, right? So nobody wanted to do that because, excuse me, sir, no, excuse me, sir, no, excuse me, sir, get a job, excuse me, sir, get out of my way. Nobody wanted to do it, right? So guess what Jayananda Prabhu did? He never was in the kirtan. He was distributing magazines the whole time because he knew no one else wanted to do it, and he knew everyone thought it was an austerity. But if you looked at him, he was totally happy. He did it. I don't remember him ever really joining the kirtan. He just would stand on this, you know, he would like drop everybody off, go park the van, come out, bring the books, bring the magazines, distribute the magazines the whole time. So I don't ever remember having to distribute magazines basically because he did. He and maybe one other devotee. They did it, so we didn't have to do it. It was really difficult. And we didn't really know how to do it, and we didn't have any special lines. And so he would distribute the magazines the whole time. And then he would go get the van at 6 o'clock and go pick us up and bring us back to the temple. So, okay, now let me, so, you know, in other words, he was just like totally in this mood of let's serve the devotees. Let's serve the devotees. That was his mood, you know. The chauffeur, you know, he used to be a taxi cab driver, so he'd drive us out, he'd drive us back. Now, let's go to, I believe it was August 1970. Now, for those of you who don't know, Jayananda was the one in charge of Rath Yatra. He's Mr. Rath Yatra for all the Rath Yatras. The 3 biggest Rath Yatras were, number 1, San Francisco. That was the first Rath Yatra. The second Rath Yatra was established in New York. And the third Rath Yatra was established in Los Angeles. Now, he left in 1977, and I think 76 was New York, and then Rath Yatra was maybe 68 first in New York, 67, 68. Maybe he came in 67, I don't remember. But he was the one who first started Rath Yatra. In 1970, Rath Yatra, I was living in the San Francisco temple, and that was the first Rath Yatra when they built a proper Rath Yatra cart. Not one, they built 3. So this is an interesting story. You'll find this funny or sad or scary maybe, or just like you probably will all say, oh my Govinda, that's amazing, or wow. So nowadays we have Rath Yatra carts, right? Usually we don't disassemble them, and if we disassemble them in a way that you just go and there it is, you know, like 2 hours later or 6 hours later, it's all, you know, it was all kind of like a toy set where things are bolted together and they kind of just fit. In those days, you build the cart from scratch and then you take it down and then you build it again. And how long does it take to build 3 Rath Yatra carts from scratch? Anyone want to take a guess? How long? We have any builders out there? If I said, I need you to build a Rath Yatra cart, and it's just you, and you figure out how to get people to help you, and I say, how much time will you need to build it? What will you say? We have any builders? Or you want to take a guess? 3 full-size Rath Yatra carts like you see in all the big, not little carts, big full size, not like Jagannath Puri carts, but someone take a guess. Tell me, how long do you think? How long would you need? Even if you're not a builder, just think. I have to get all the wood. How long is that going to take? And I have to start building, and then the canopies. Yeah, a few months. Yeah, that's generally. I think in LA they would start. They would start up to 3 months before planning, at least 2 or 3. Yeah, 6 weeks each. Mukunda knows. So that 6 weeks each. So it's that's 2.5 months. Yeah, so we're talking 2-3 months. Okay, 2 to 3 months. Okay. Yes. Adi Dev knows. Yeah, 9 months. That's if Chitradev, if you were building, it would take 9 months. Okay, so how much time do you think that a bunch of 20-year-olds in San Francisco set aside to prepare for Rath Yatra? How much time do you think? To build the carts, to advertise, get the canopies, get the permits, do everything. How much time do you think they spent? Yeah, 3 months. 3 months is good, yeah. Okay, this was interesting. This will give you an insight into ISKCON 1970. In San Francisco is like a very liberal place and very fired up. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. That was the thing. Okay, this is how we thought. We thought Rath Yatra means austerity, so we give ourselves 2 weeks to do this, right? So during that time, if you slept 4, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. This is during that 2 weeks. If you slept 4 hours a night, you were doing good. That was a good night. 3 to 4 was the average. Everybody slept. And this had become a ritual from previous years that we set aside 2 weeks, we do this austerity. And I told Madhavisa something he didn't even remember, but he made a vow not to sleep. He said, I'm not going to, you think you're crazy. Well, you're not crazy compared to this. He said, okay, for these, no, he made a vow for there was so much to do. He didn't make a vow not to sleep for 2 weeks. He made a vow not to sleep for a couple of days. He doesn't remember this story. Well, he's not alive now, but I told him he didn't remember. I specifically remember because I remember waking up one morning and he was conked out with his head on his desk because it was like he had been up for 36 hours and he couldn't stay awake. He was trying to work all night. And then we had, this is so funny. This is side information for you, inside information. This is it's so funny. So we had one devotee there named Mukunlal. Mukunlal is now Bhakti Vaidurya Madhava Maharaj, who lives in India. And every night, he would sit in a certain place and chant Gayatri. And he would finish the Gayatri. He probably has the world's record for the longest Gayatri. He would finish the Gayatri about 4 a.m. when everybody got up. So you'd go to bed and he'd be sitting there, doing what, the devotees do. It's not like this. It's like this. You know that one? Crash bomb, shake your head. You know that one? It was like, he was like the temple mascot. So you'd see him chanting Gayatri and you go yeah, right, Mukunlal, good luck. And he'd get up in the morning and he'd be there like that, still with his thread. So that was the mood. But I specifically remember, this was Jayananda's schedule, and you're going to think this is weird. This was Jayananda's schedule. He would go to bed at midnight-ish, because he'd been working all day. He'd go to bed at midnight-ish. He would get up at 4, and he'd put on his overalls and get his crew and he would go out and start working on Rath Yatra at 4 a.m. And he would come back, because I was at the temple then, I distinctly remember this schedule. Of course, memory's not perfect, but we'll have to go with what I think is still working up there. He would come back at 10 o'clock at night. And you're thinking, he went to bed at midnight, he got up at 4, took a shower and went out, started working. When did he chant his rounds? Yeah, you're right, at 10 o'clock at night. He'd come back, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, he'd walk around the temple, trying to stay awake, Hare Krishna, Hare. This is how he would chant. He was, I have to go back, he was like, oh, I can't do it, I can't stand up, I don't think you'll see me. It was like, Hare Krishna, Hare. He'd chant like this. Big guy. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. This is, he was like, Jayananda was huge. I mean, he must have been, Adidev, how tall was he? Like 6'6" or something? And like 250 pounds? 250 pounds is like 120 kgs. He was huge. Anybody, yeah, he was big. And so he'd be bouncing like that. So he would come back 10 o'clock. After working from 4 till 10, you can calculate that as 16 hours, right? 18 hours. Yeah, it was 18 hours. He'd work, is that right? 16 hours or 18? Brain is not working. 4 to 4 would be 12, and then 4 to 10 would be another 6. So it was 18 hours. After coming back, yeah, huge hands, yeah. He was, I think it was close to 6'6", right? Or at least 6'3". And like, yeah. You wouldn't want to get in a fight with him. That's all I can say. So he would come back after 18 hours of service and he'd start chanting. You know, and he'd chant till midnight and then he'd go to sleep. And then he'd get up at 4 and go back out and work. There's a side story some of you may know that Prabhupada came to San Francisco. And it wasn't this year, it was another time. But Jayananda's mood was like, why sit in Prabhupada's room and listen to him when you could actually be serving him? That was like totally his mood. It was like why would you sit around and listen to your guru when you could actually be out there serving? That's just how he thought. So Prabhupada was there and he said, where's Jayananda Prabhu? And I said, he's out doing some service. And so bring him in. So Jayananda comes in, sits down, and as you know, if you don't sleep sufficiently, at least my experience as a brahmachari, sleeping 5 hours a night, when you sit down, if you count 1, 2, 3, you're gone. And I remember in those days, Prabhupada said, if you don't sleep too much and you work hard for Krishna, as soon as you lay down at night, 1, you don't even get to 3. You get to about 1.5 and you're gone. I mean, if you don't believe me, sleep 5 hours a night, because that's basically what we did as brahmacharis. Sleep 5 hours a night for a few days. And one day, you'll start to realize, yeah, if I do that, I used to have insomnia, but if I do that, 1, 2, I'm gone. So Jayananda, he worked so hard, he didn't sleep much, kind of dangerous, driving a van, not sleeping, but he just came in and, did the 1, 2, 3, and you're out, right? And so people are thinking, Jayananda's sleeping in Prabhupada's room, this is not good. And Prabhupada stopped them. He said, leave him alone, he's tired. He's doing more work than all of you. So Prabhupada was praising him that way. So I never worked with Jayananda on the carts, but, being there in the temple, like, I heard what was going on. And they're actually working right across the street. There was an empty lot across the street from the temple. That was perfect. And that's where they were working on the cart. And this is what I heard. I didn't see it. This is amazing. You have these big pieces of wood, right? And it was like, okay, Jayananda, build the cart. And well, where's the manpower? And I'm like, oh, you can have Bhakta Tony. I was like, it's like, and here's Bhakta Tom. And that was like, no, we need more people than that. So he didn't have enough people, and like, what to do? So to be lifting something, it's like, this is too heavy for 2 or 3 of us. We need help. We got to move this stuff around. So there'd be some guy just walking on the street and say, excuse me, could you help us lift this? And the guy's like, the guy could be like a total drunk, whatever, just anybody. Okay. Somehow or other, he had this Shakti. He could get people to engage in service. And some of these people that had just like stopped, he stopped, they would help. And he'd go, thank you. Could you help with this? We just need this done. I'm like, okay. And after they finish that, well, actually, do you know how to, you have any skills with building? Oh, yeah, I have some. You think you could do this? And it just engaged people like that. And some of them like stayed the whole time and worked for 2 weeks on the cart. He had that. It was very difficult to say no to him. And I'll tell you why. Because people could see that he was selfless. People could see his only motive was to serve. And of course, in devotional service, people can understand, oh, here's a group of people, they're doing service. But with Jayananda especially, you could sense, anybody could sense immediately, he had no motive other than to serve. He had no personal motive. So when someone has no motive for themselves and they ask you to serve, it's really difficult to say no because they're doing it. They're giving like 100 times more than they're asking you to give. It's really difficult. You know what I mean? It's really difficult to say no. So here's this guy, this big guy, working 18 hours a day, working harder than anybody, maybe harder than anyone they've ever seen work. And he's asking, you think you could help me lift this? You think you could you stay a little longer and help with this? And, there's this big job, you only have 2 weeks, and this person's looking at this thinking, okay, I'll help you, because you're never going to get this done on your own. So that was Jayananda's power. It was hard to say no to him, because you could see that his motive was only to serve. He didn't want to take anything from anyone. And one of the things that I didn't experience this personally, but one of the things that many devotees said that work with him, they said that he always took care of everybody with prasadam. He was very much a prasadam man, a prasadam addict, you could say. But especially, he made sure whoever worked with him, they were taken well care of, especially with prasadam. So he had that very big brother mood, like totally, this is my big brother. I'm going to take care of you. And if you're with Jayananda, the last thing you ever had to think about was prasadam. It was like that never escaped his mind. He did austerity and sleeping, but he never did austerity and prasadam. He always made sure you got a lot of good prasadam, and he loved prasadam. But especially, we have to say, because he was taking care of so many young people, he knew how important prasadam was. He never neglected that ever. He always made sure these people are working so hard, they have to get prasadam. So this is the nature that if you do service which is pure on such a pure level, it's very easy to attract people because it becomes contagious. When you're ecstatic serving and you're serving with a pure motive and people look at you and think, I've never seen anybody so happy. I've never seen anybody so self-sacrificing yet so happy. Sign me up. I want to do that. Whatever you're doing, I want to do it. This is amazing. So that was his effect. There's a beautiful story you may have heard. I didn't witness it. I heard it. And as I said, I wanted to focus on my own experiences, which I will. There's more. But I wanted to tell this story because I think this story fits right in. with what we're talking about. And in order to do Rath Yatra in the United States, in the locations we choose, we have to get permits from the city. And there was one city, I don't know what it was, which city it was. Maybe it was San Francisco. Now there was one office which was a little difficult with the devotees. And the lady in the office was a little, we could say strict, or maybe unfriendly is the word. Not so accommodating. You have to fill this out, and you have to do it by this date, and if you don't do it, we're not giving it to you. And, last year you did it late, and I made an exception, and this year I'm not going to make an exception. So, if you don't get this in by this date, we're going to cancel, and last year you did this, and you promised you wouldn't, and if you don't do it this year, it's just like, okay. So every year he would go there personally. He was, he did everything. You remember what I said in the beginning? He does everything himself. It's not like, hey, Prabhu, you do it. Why should I do it? No, if it had to be done, I'll just do it, whatever. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what it is, Clean the toilets, clean the pots. There's so many stories of him cleaning. Pots have to be clean. Clean them. Okay, let me divert for a second, because this is really important, and I'll get back. Remember the nasty lady permit office, in case my old brain forgets it, because today I'm 70. That means my brain's finished, right? At 70, it's jello. So, so now I forgot the other story I was going to take. I told you it was jello. Okay, maybe I'll remember that. No, I was saying I wanted to make a point about the effect of his association. How maybe I already spoke about this. Maybe it's redundant. I'll go back. That's amazing. I was trying to remember I was trying to not forget the story I was going to go back to, and in doing that, I forgot the story I was going to tell. Wow, that's sad. Okay, maybe we'll remember it. So, we'll go back to this story. Yeah, Jayananda. This is the Jayananda story. So, I was making the point that he would do everything. And it's like whatever had to be done, he would just do it. And so he would go there, and she would meet him every year, and like, okay, yeah, last year you didn't do this. If you don't do this, they're not going to give you the permit. And if they already get the permit this year, you have to do this, you have to do that, or just like, rah, 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 rah. Kind of like, going there. From what I've heard, was like an austerity. Nobody wanted to deal with this lady. And so, as you know, Jayananda passed away in May of 1977. So now they're organizing Rath Yatra without him, and they're coming to this not so nice lady. I don't want to say nasty because I never met her, but we'll just say not so nice. The impression I got is kind of hard, official, maybe not nasty, but just kind of, okay, next. All right, take this, sign on the paper. Okay. When will we get it? You'll get it when we call you. Next. Kind of something like that. Just hard. And so they come that year, and Jayananda is obviously not there because he's gone back to Godhead. He's dancing with Krishna. So, sounds good, You get to die, everybody's like, I don't want to die. What do you mean? It's an opportunity to dance with Krishna. Why wouldn't you want to die? You're not going to do it if you don't die. So he's dancing with Krishna, and she's like, well, they called him Jayananda. I don't know if that's just what they said his name is so they could pronounce it, or that's just how they pronounced it. But for her, he was Jayananda. Where's Jayananda? Oh, because every year he comes. And they said, oh, I'm sorry, but he passed away. Immediately, she got up and went in the back room. And with the way devotees describe it, she just had a breakdown. She was so impressed by his saintliness. that should, I mean, can you imagine? I mean, just, okay, try to meditate on this. This is amazing if you think about it. How many people come to that lady to get a permit in a year? You know, how many? 10 a day? I'll just say 10 a day. That's, okay. Okay, we'll lowball the estimate, 1,000 people. Or 500. That's only 2 permits a day, let's say, you know. Well, let's say 250 people times 2. 2 permits a day, 2 permits a day would be 500 people. How do you remember 500 people, and what effect does any one of those people have on you? And that's lowball. There's probably thousands of people she's dealing with, right? So try to imagine that she's dealing with this man once a year for how long? How long could it be? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes? Hare Krishna. And she's that much affected by this person, seeing him for 15 minutes once a year, that when she finds out he left his body, she's that much affected. Meditate on that. That is amazing. Just think about it. Your mind will, I don't know if your mind can handle that. I mean, isn't that amazing? That just that brief moment, sadhu sangha, sadhu sangha, sadhu sangha, sarva shastra hoy, lava matra, that brief moment, sadhu sangha, sarva siddhi hoy. She was so affected that she had a breakdown when she found out he left his body. She was so impressed by his character. She was so impressed by his presence, his saintliness, his total absence of pride, his utter humility, his utter purity and service mode. Even she, in that 10, 15 minutes once a year, picked up on it to such an extent that she was emotionally affected by his disappearance. That is amazing. Does that give you an idea of who Jayananda Prabhu is? There are stories of devotees who describe that they were kind of rough people. And they said in Jayananda's presence, they became like little puppies. Like by his association, they became like puppies. Isn't that interesting? That is something, you know, that's something that no lecture can, you can't give that in a lecture. You can only give that when you are that. So as important as it is to preach, you can only give that if you have it. It can only really infiltrate people's hearts, or it's the quickest way to infiltrate their heart, is to just be it. And in that presence, it's like, whoa. And I want to give you an experience that I had. I had this experience. It's very vivid in my mind. One of those, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe you're saying that. In other words, that what you said is so humble. You didn't say that. I'm dreaming, right? This is not real. Nobody does that experience with him. So I can't remember the other story I was going to tell, but I think it was just to underscore the power of being a sadhu. And this also was why he was so dear to Prabhupada. Because Prabhupada said he was a pure devotee. And he said, how do we please Prabhupada? It's easy. Well, not easy. The answer is easy. Doing it's not easy. Become a pure devotee. If you become a pure devotee, Prabhupada will be proud of you, and you will please him. Jayananda pleased him so much because he was so pure. So Jayananda came down with leukemia. At that time, I was in San Diego, a geography lesson for those who are not from the United States and those who fell asleep in their geography classes who are from the United States. California, as I mentioned, is on the West Coast. If you go west of California, you end up in the Pacific Ocean. If you keep going west, you end up in Hawaii. If you keep going west, you end up in Japan and places like that. And if you keep going west, south, you end up in Australia. So California, San Francisco is the main city of Northern California. Southern California, the main city is Los Angeles, and also San Diego at that time was not a big city, but now has become a fairly large city. So I was living in San Diego. San Diego is like if you drive 20 minutes from the temple in San Diego, 20, 25 minutes, you end up in Mexico, because the United States borders Mexico, and California borders a city called Tijuana, pronounced with a Mexican accent, Tijuana. Tijuana, I go to Tijuana. So there was a protocol for curing cancer that was being done in a clinic, and the reason it was done in Tijuana, is because it was illegal in America. So these doctors could only practice in Tijuana. They may have been American, I'm not sure, but in any case, they couldn't practice in America. And it's illegal, man. You cannot do that in America. You have to go to Tijuana. You want to practice. As a side point, do you know it's illegal to cure cancer in America? Did anyone ever tell you that? It's illegal. If you do it, if you cure cancer, and it's not by chemo, radiation, or operation, you will be shut down and arrested or possibly killed. Did you know that? That is 100% true. You are not allowed to cure cancer. And if you do cure it, you better make sure nobody knows about it. And you can't say that you did it, even though you did. Did you know that? It's 100% true. His interaction with the police, yeah, that's another story. That's a good one. Okay, we'll see if we have time for the police story. After I wanted to make sure I told all my personal stories. So he has leukemia. Well, the story is he came down with leukemia while he was organizing the Rath Yatra in 1976 in New York, and he didn't tell anybody. And he was in great pain, and his body just didn't have energy. And he was organizing the whole thing, and he was out there at the Rath Yatra festival. So Keshav Bharati tells a story that he saw Jayananda coming out of the bathroom or walking up the stairs, something like that, and he was kind of limping and hunched over. And he said, Jayananda, you don't look well. What's wrong? What's going on? And that he was the first one that he told. He said, actually, I have leukemia, but don't tell anyone. I don't want anybody to know. I just want to organize and be at Rath Yatra, and I don't want anybody pitying me or taking care of me or doing anything. Can you imagine? He's dying of leukemia. He's in pain. And he's there at Rath Yatra, and he doesn't want anyone to know. Most people would, in that state would be telling everyone, even the people they didn't know, I have leukemia, could you help? Could you hand me this? Could you do this? And he's out there doing everything. Is that amazing? I mean, think about that. He didn't even tell anybody, and he's got leukemia, and his body is breaking down, and he's in pain, and it's really difficult for him, and he organizes the whole Rath Yatra, and then he goes out there and participates in it with leukemia, in pain, with the body breaking down. Hare Krishna. Amazing. So he goes to Tijuana to get the cure for leukemia, but it's very expensive. I tell you, it's too expensive. He was spending money. He had the money, some savings or something. He hated to spend money on himself. It was like, that was so painful. To try to cure his leukemia, he had to spend money on himself. He was suffering probably more from having to spend money on himself than from the leukemia. Seriously. He hated spending money on himself. And that's the police story, if we get around to it. Absolutely hated spending money on himself. So this is what he was doing in the hospital. He was going around distributing books in the hospital. He was preaching to people. He has leukemia. He was preaching to people in the hospital, and he was holding a regular Bhagavad Gita class. I don't know how often, maybe every day, once a week. He was going around preaching, distributing books in the hospital with leukemia and holding Bhagavad Gita class. And, ladies and gentlemen, drum roll. If you have trouble waking up early, listen to this story. Okay, if you have trouble waking up early, wake up right now and listen to this story. Leukemia in Tijuana, 1977. Jayananda Prabhu, by himself, in the hospital, waking up every day at 3 a.m. Now, If you want a good excuse not to get up early, I think leukemia is a good one. What do you think? You agree? I think it's a damn good excuse. And I think everyone would say, Prabhu, don't get up early. Right? It's 3 a.m. This is, try to understand his mind. This is his practice. This is his bhakti to Prabhupada, to rise early and chant. Try to understand. If you get this in your head, this can really help you. It's like it's implanted in his heart that this is my sadhana, this is my seva to my guru. So even though I'm in the hospital with leukemia, I still get up at 3 o'clock. But this story becomes more amazing. You will faint. So make sure there's somebody next to you when I tell you this story, because you're going to need help. Okay? So he's getting up at 3 o'clock. He's got leukemia. He's getting up at 3 o'clock every day, doing his full morning program, going on Sankirtan in the hospital, distributing books, preaching to people, and holding Bhagavad Gita class. If you have an excuse for not preaching, if you have an excuse for not getting up early, maybe you should write this story like on your palm. Maybe you should get a tattoo. We have Alejandra from Bolivia. Alejandra, she can give you a tattoo. The Jayananda story. Tattoo. Jayananda with leukemia rising at 3 a.m. Just put that on your, read that every night before you go to sleep. Jayananda with leukemia doing book distribution in the hospital. Jayananda with leukemia doing morning program in the hospital. Jayananda with leukemia having Bhagavad Gita class in the hospital. Here's the amazing part. Let me go back. I want to pound this point in our heads. He was so dedicated to Prabhupada that practice of rising early was like his connection to Prabhupada. This is what Prabhupada wants me to do. This is what he asked me. This is what I do. This is who I am. I'm his follower. I have to still do that, even in this position. It was like with Bhaktitirtha Swami. He was so ill. He was so much in pain. He couldn't finish his rounds, and he was in total anxiety. I think Radhanath Swami said, What's your anxiety? He said, it's the first time in my life I never finished my rounds. He was going crazy. That kind of dedication where it's like in your cells, you've programmed your bhakti on the cellular level. So even with leukemia, you get up at 3 a.m. Amazing. I was with Gunagrai Maharaj, and he had a flu. He was really sick, like the whole day. It was just like, and he was up every morning at 3 a.m. I was like, that's amazing. It just had this practice, on the cellular level, like 3 a.m. is written on your cells. So that's something to meditate on for all of you. You're challenged with everything. That's something to meditate on. So then, here's the amazing part of the story. So then what happened was, the hospital said, we can't allow you to have these classes. We can't allow you to go around and distribute books. And we can't allow you to go around preaching to people. This is, it's not allowed here. And you know what he said? He said, if I can't do these things, I'm leaving. And he packed up and he left the hospital. That was going to cure him of leukemia. Hare Krishna. Meditate on that one. I would rather die than not be able to preach. Hare Krishna. I mean, that is amazing. If you want to faint, go ahead. If you want to cry, go ahead. If you want to bang your head on the ground or the wall, if you want to scream, that's fine. I can't hear you. That is like unbelievable, right? I would rather, you won't let me preach, then I would rather die of leukemia. Hare Krishna. So, right after that, he came to San Diego. And I'm not sure why he came to San Diego, other than that was the closest temple. He came to stay there. And I'm not sure what he was doing, if he was still following the protocol, but he had left the hospital. It wasn't clear to me. And he was staying in an attic. I mean, if you could go to this house and see where he was staying, you had to climb up a ladder. You had to climb up a ladder to stay in a little attic. Did he complain? He's got leukemia. He's staying in an attic, which is not really even a place to live. Climbing up one of those little ladders that come down from the attic. That's where he was living, right? So I wanted to tell you this other story that made this huge impression on me. I was giving class, and he came to the class. He didn't really want to give classes because he kind of felt like he was always engaged in service and he didn't really study. And he was really getting into it in his last days. He said, "This is the first time I've really studied Prabhupada's books." He was really happy. But he was happy. He was happy. He's a senior devotee, and he's happy to attend other people's classes. So I was giving class, and I felt, oh my God, Jayananda's in the class. How I shouldn't be giving this class. He's senior, but not only senior in years, he's light years away in Krishna consciousness from me, from what I have. So I give my class, whatever it was about, and he said, he made a comment. He said, I was in the hospital, and they had these TVs on everywhere. So I was like watching these TV shows. He said, and so you have the news, this war here and this catastrophe here, and the 600 people died in this flood, and this forest fire has destroyed 1,000 homes. And he said, you just go on. And he said, and then the commercial comes on for this beauty cream. It's called Pond's. I don't know if they still have it. And he said, you put this beauty cream and all your wrinkles go away, your skin will glow, you will look like an apsara. And he said he would just talk about that. And he said, it was so funny. It's like you're watching the world fall apart, people suffering here, people suffering there. Then the commercial comes on, just like nothing's wrong. And he said, I can't believe that people don't pick up on that. He just thought that was so funny. But the thing that really amazed me, and I don't know if it'll strike you, I'll see if I can explain it in this way. After the class, he was asking questions to me, and I'm thinking, it should be the other way around. He's asking questions to me, and the way he asked them, this is my perception, my memory of it, I can visualize where he was sitting. I can visualize where I was sitting. It was such an emotionally charged event, just asking a question. So many people have asked me questions. I can't remember the scene. I remember the scene distinctly. I'm sitting in the back of the temple. He's sitting to my right, about 5 feet away. And he asked me some questions. And the mood of his asking was like he was a new bhakta, just like, so I'm just wondering, Prabhupada says here, does that mean this or does that mean that? And I'm listening to this, I'm thinking, I never seen somebody so, it's like if we had that question, we would be embarrassed to ask it because it would reveal our ignorance. Like, you're a senior devotee, you know, Prabhupada's saying this, and you don't know what he means. The question was like a simple question, like a new devotee would ask. And he was just like looking at it with like the eyes of a child with this awe and reverence. And so what does Prabhupada mean here? Could you explain that? Does this what he means? I'm not sure. And he's asking me this with this complete, just like naked, make yourself naked to the world by asking a question that's so simple. It's like admitting, like, I really don't understand this. And when he asked that question, I just was stunned. I said, I can't believe you're just bearing your soul to the world by asking a simple question, which would reflect that you need to go deeper in Prabhupada's books. It was like we wouldn't ask that question because we would be embarrassed in front of everyone that we didn't know the answer. He wasn't like that. He didn't have false ego. It didn't exist. I could say perhaps he's the only person I've ever met that had 0 on the scale, on the barometer of false ego. He was probably -1. It was like it didn't exist, you know. And even advanced devotees still, until they're pure, they have a little bit. He didn't have any. Okay, so Satyananda wanted me to tell the story about Jayananda and the policeman. At least this is one of the stories I know. And it follows that story of the lady who broke down when she found out that Jayananda died. So Jayananda needed some pants. Pants in England means underwear. No, these are trousers. He needed trousers. We don't use the word trousers so much in America. We use the word pants, but pants means trousers. So he needed some trousers. We don't use that word, do we, in America? Satyananda, Jason, you ever use the word trousers? You're from New York. I'm from California. Maybe trousers is used in New York, but in California, going to buy me some pants. Not trousers. That's very, very British trousers. I'm going to get me some trousers, sir. Thank you very much. So he needed some trousers, pants, jeans. Yeah. But as we said, Jayananda Prabhu. Jayananda Prabhu. No, don't use that word. Use pants. Yeah. Pants. That's why the problem is when you go to British countries and you say Satyananda, and you're in England and you say, I need some pants. Can we go get some pants? They'll take you to the store and they'll take you to the underwear. And you'll be saying, no, I need some pants. And they're like, yeah, of course. Yeah, I know what you need. And then you're having a big fight because pants means underwear for them. When I first went to South Africa, I was trying to find things, and they had different words, like insurance. We needed car insurance, but it wasn't insurance, it was assurance. So I'm going through the yellow pages looking for insurance, and it doesn't exist, and I'm tearing my hair out, which is why I have no hair now. I was tearing my hair out. I have to find car insurance, and they don't even have it in the yellow pages. And then I find out from the devotee, insurance? What's insurance? You mean assurance. Okay, so yeah, it was very frustrating for me. Trying to ask devotees, we need this. And they're like, what's that? You don't know what that... We need tomatoes. What are tomatoes? You never heard of a tomato? No. You mean tomato? Oh, yeah, this is where we go. It's like underpants. We call them underpants. Yeah, pants and underpants. Oh, you call them underpants? Oh, okay. Maybe the British have changed. Anyway, so... As I said, Jayananda Prabhu did not like to spend Krishna's money. It was really painful for him to spend Krishna's money. So he decided, I need the pants, but I can't spend the money. So I'm just going to steal them, as we call that. We don't call it stealing, we call it the 5-finger discount. So he took advantage of the 5-finger discount. But unfortunately, the 5-finger discount didn't work because he got caught. Dun, 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 dun. Stay tuned for Adventures of Jayananda, Part 2. So, Jayananda goes to court. Did you steal these pants? Yes, I stole them. Your Honor, I'm a missionary. I'm a monk. I've dedicated my life totally to service of God and humanity. And I do not waste money. I save every penny of the hard-earned money that we collect from the public, and I hate to spend money on myself. And I couldn't bring myself around to take the money that could be used in service of God and service of others and spend it on myself. So that's why I stole the pants. And you know what the judge said? The judge said, oh my Govinda. No, he didn't say, oh my Govinda. He said something like, oh my God, this man is a saint. Let him go. And you know the policeman was there who arrested him. And you know what the policeman said? He was so moved. The policeman said, I'll pay the fine. Hare Krishna. Oh my God. Is that amazing? Is that amazing? The judge was moved. Again, it's one of these 10 minutes with Jayananda and your life has changed. Maybe that should be the title of this lecture. 10 minutes with Jayananda and your life will never be the same. Your life is totally 10-minute transformations with Jayananda Prabhu. I mean, meditate on that. That is amazing. One little court case. How long could it have taken for him to explain what he did? Probably as long as I did. And, a few more minutes setting things up. And the judge is like, oh my God. I never met anybody like this. This man is a saint. How often do you meet a saint in your courtroom? Like once in a lifetime, once in 100 lifetimes, maybe never. And then the policeman, it had such an effect on him. He said, he was so moved. He said, I'll pay. Yeah. So I think one of the things that is coming out clearly from this discussion is that, our behavior, our purity, our consciousness does affect people in a good way or a bad way. And ultimately, to affect people's hearts, we have to be Krishna conscious. And that's what we saw with Jayananda Prabhu. So, Jayananda Prabhu stayed with us in San Diego. And then he went back, and then he had written a letter to Prabhupada. So he was thinking about what to do, and as I remember, he was still doing some protocol. He just didn't want to stay in that hospital because they were constraining him. So he was doing some protocol, and as I remember, I don't think he was really getting worse or much worse, but he really wasn't improving. And he was again in this dilemma because he's not getting much better and he's spending all this money and he hates to spend money on himself. So he's thinking, maybe I should stop trying to save my life. And because right now I'm putting all my energy into saving my life rather than service. And I could put energy into service. So he wrote Prabhupada a letter and he said, Prabhupada, it's a struggle now with this leukemia. And I'm not certain I'm going to be able to conquer it. And I'm putting a lot of energy and a lot of time and money into it. And I would rather just stop and leave my body. Interesting, right? Because most people, at least many people, will fight till the end. And he was like, why fight to the end? What's the point? What's the point of not serving Krishna? And just taking care of my body. And Prabhupada agreed. He said yes. He said yes. Why fight this? Why put that energy into this? Better just to prepare. Because Prabhupada is, you might say that's insensitive by Prabhupada. Prabhupada is preparing us to die. And now Jayananda is ready to die, and Prabhupada is saying, okay. But the interesting thing is, now Jayananda Prabhu is in a wheelchair. And Jayananda Prabhu is now in Los Angeles. And I think he was in Los Angeles either to be taken care of or to do Rath Yatra. I don't know. Maybe one of you know, maybe Adidev, you know why he ended up there. But whatever the story is, he, in his wheelchair, organized the first Rath Yatra in Los Angeles. He was there in LA and said, you need to do a Rath Yatra in Venice Beach. Venice Beach is a huge tourist attraction and just a very crowded beach. And when in the 70s, when I was in Los Angeles, it was all the hippies lived in Venice Beach. We used to do book distribution there. It was fantastic. You just knock, knock, knock. Come in. Hey, let's do kirtan, Stay in their house. They invite their friends. It was a very hip place, but it's still kind of a hip in a different way today. And so that's the place he chose. It was like they couldn't have chosen a better place in LA for Rath Yatra. And he organized the Rath Yatra. And I believe there's even pictures of him out at the beach checking out the route in his wheelchair. So he's got Rath Yatra on his mind. He's got service on his mind. While he has energy, he's going to do service, no matter what. And so he organizes Rath Yatra. He basically, I don't want to say he organized it as much as he inspired it and started. He checked it out and he said, look at, you can do it here, do this, do that, blah, 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 blah. And in those days, Lalita building carts across the street from Jayananda. So he was able to supervise. You were there, Adi Dave, when that was happening? I think I was in San Diego at that time. Hare Krishna. So, yeah. So he organized that Rath Yatra, and then, unfortunately, he left before he saw it. So he, as I said, San Francisco, and then New York with leukemia, and then very, very shortly before he left his body, I mean, we're probably talking about weeks, yeah. He's supervising it in his wheelchair, right? Would he come out in his wheelchair? So we've gone an hour and a half. So hopefully this is an inspiration to you all, that get bhakti on the cellular level. I think that's one of the big lessons we've gotten here. And that someone of this caliber has a major effect on people. Major effect. I wasn't around. Maybe Adidev, if you were around when Kamini is asking, how did the devotees react when he made that decision? I can tell you how I reacted. I was thinking, my reaction was, wow. And my reaction was, that's the right decision. Or at least I understood why he made that decision. I don't know if I thought it was the right decision. I don't think I judged the decision. I remember just thinking, for Jayananda, that's the perfect decision, because that decision is totally, any other decision would have been out of character. For Jayananda to just struggle to stay alive and spend all this money and time and not be able to preach and do service is totally out of character. So he would rather die than not being able to do service and just spending money on his health. That's probably for him worse than death. So that's how I took it. Like, this was totally a Jayananda move. Yeah, why live? What's the point? Unless we can serve. So my experience serving with him, because I did get the opportunity to serve with him, it was just like, I don't know, Adi Dave, if you got the chance to serve with him, but he just made devotional service fun. I mean, when you're around him, devotional service was fun. Oh, we can do this. It was like some big austerity, and for him it was like fun. Oh, we get to do this. Yeah. Yeah. So wasn't it like, around him, devotional service is like fun, whatever. But I read something very interesting. Yeah. Well, interesting is an interesting way to end this class, but it another thing about his dying, he had another thought, and he this is, I'm sure, a thought many godbrothers have had, but we weren't ill at that time. One of the reasons why he wanted to die, he said, I don't want to be around when Prabhupada leaves his body. I don't want to have to live through that, and I don't want to have to live in an ISKCON without Prabhupada. When Prabhupada was getting ill, all of us were thinking, we don't want to live in an ISKCON without Prabhupada, because Prabhupada is ISKCON, ISKCON is Prabhupada. We could not imagine an ISKCON without Prabhupada. And so Jayananda, that was, I think, also influenced his decision. That, I can't bear the pain. I wouldn't be able to bear the pain of being alive and Prabhupada leaving, than having to exist in his absence. And Jayananda, I think, foresaw that there would be so many challenges after Prabhupada left, and he's just like, I don't want to be around. That would be too difficult for me. So that also explains something about his mood in leaving. And as Adidev is saying, that being with Jayananda was always blissful, so I'm sure his dying was also blissful. Everything about him was blissful. So there's so much to be said. I think Kamini was saying there's a book by Vyasaki Prabhu about the Radha Damodar book, and there's books about Jayananda. Yeah, he didn't want to accept service. Yeah, it's just like, it's almost like a character from Bhagavatam steps off the pages. Like, it's like you're with him, you're watching him, and he's doing things like you've read about, but you've never seen it. Or you maybe have seen it, but you've never seen it to that degree. And so consistently, it's like, okay, I can be humble today, Everyone's saying happy birthday to you. And I'm like, don't make a big thing, it's not a big thing. Okay, I can be humble today. But be humble in every moment, every day of your life, in every situation. That's much more difficult. You can prepare, like, okay, I'm going to prepare myself to be humble today. Okay, how should I think? People are going to be honoring me. Okay, I can do that. Okay, I'll be humble today. But humble every day, at every moment, and always wanting to serve, not be served. It's just painful for him to be served. Hare Krishna. I think there may be a book about his life. There's a devotee named Vishok that was close to him, and it's on, I don't know if it was published, but definitely. Oh yeah, Jagannath Garland was brought to him as he left, just as he left. It was like right after Mangalartik, or wasn't it? And then he left. And then his Pushpa Samadhi, or maybe his real Samadhi, I don't know. I think it's his Pushpa Samadhi, is at the Jagannath Temple, Mandir in Mayapur. And they have his picture there, and there's a little shrine in his honor. It has I think his jacket is there. Some of his beads may be there. So that's a powerful place. If you're in Mayapur, you go to the Rajpur Jagannath Temple and you can circumambulate his probably Pushpa Samadhi. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Isn't it, Adidev? It's like you read about all this, you read about it and you're like, okay, it sounds good. And Bhagavatam probably never see anybody like that. And then Jayananda is that one who's like, he walks off the pages of Bhagavatam and you go, yeah, there's that like Ambarish-like humility. There's that Prahlad Maharaj-like tolerance. There's that, Ambarish Maharaj like cleaning the temple. I don't know the name of the book. It's a book by Vishaka Prabhu. Vishoka, excuse me. So anybody could just Google that. I think it's online. This book's popular in Russia, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I think, I remember now what I wanted to say. When I was mentioning Jayananda would like to do menial service. He'd wash pots, fix cars, take out the trash, and devotees would say, well, the person taking out the trash is this, if the person taking out the trash is this Krishna conscious, I'm joining. This is amazing. But something that I think is very important for us to know, especially for those of us who become leaders, becoming a leader is a trap because people will serve you naturally. Becoming a senior devotee is a trap because they will serve you. Unless you're in Alachua, they won't serve you. So, yeah, that's a joke, but it's half true, right? So, Badahari Chataratma and I, we have a little private joke because we travel a lot, and especially if you go to like Eastern Europe, you become like a god, and then you come to back to Alachua, and you're like, "Hey, well, Prabhu, how's it going?" And that's about all you get, and then you get to stand in the end of the line for prasadam and hope there'll be some rice left for you. So it's kind of funny, but if you ever have trouble with pride, just come to Alachua. You'll be fine. In a few hours, you'll be fine. So, but generally, the problem when you become an older devotee or become a leader or become good at something or wise, talented, or even if you exhibit saintly qualities, the problem is people will praise you. People will notice that. And it can affect you because then you start thinking, well, yeah, I guess I am more advanced. I mean, I thought I was more advanced, but everyone's telling me, so it's a confirmation. I must have been thinking correctly, yeah. I knew I was more advanced. You're telling me I'm more advanced? Oh, okay. I'm validated. I am more advanced. So you're getting, the false ego gets validated by so much praise. And plus there's this idea, well, I'm the senior, I'm the this, I'm the that. So let the juniors do it. They can wash the pots. Why should I wash the pots? You're a 7-year-old like that one. If I can make a 7-year-old laugh, that must have been funny. Yeah, I guess you have to be in Alachua to understand it. Yeah, but we can do a commercial. Are you suffering from false egoitis? Is your false ego becoming inflated beyond control? Well, we have the cure. It's called Alachua. Come to Alachua. Immediately upon stepping in Alachua, no one will even notice you. No one will even recognize you. You won't get much more than, Haribol Prabhu, nice to see you. And the line is in the back. That's what you'll get. It will cure all your false egoitis in a very short time. Yeah. So that's our commercial. But actually, when we joke about it, we all say, actually, we appreciate it because, it's mostly God brothers, so many God brothers here. And, between God brothers and second generation, you get pretty well, ignored. It's the generation in between doesn't ignore you so much. It's the God brothers and the second generation. They're like, Haribol Prabhu. It's funny. This is America. So, but my point is that when there's just this natural thinking that as you go up the ladder, as a senior devotee, your position goes up and so forth, then you just shouldn't, you don't have to do menial service. You shouldn't do it. You don't think about it. So I think this example of Jayananda is so important for us individually and important for our movement. That don't ever think you're ever beyond menial servant. Don't think you ever achieve a position where you're beyond menial servant. I mean, look what Prabhupada did. He was cooking, he was cleaning, he was cooking, serving, and cleaning in 1966 in New York. And not complaining. And there's a saying, sometimes you'll be tolerant, you'll be patient, so-called, but you'll be complaining while you're doing it, Okay, I'm being very patient, I'm waiting, but inside I'm complaining, so I'm not really being patient. And the quality of Jayananda was that he would take this humble service, but he wouldn't complain. Why do I have to do this? I'm the senior devotee. Doesn't anybody care, This is not, sir. I'm a Brahmin, now I'm under the car getting greasy. Never, ever, ever did those words come out of his mouth. Only this is service for Prabhupada, this is bliss. Everything, like Adidev was saying, bliss, bliss, bliss. I heard it was Bhavananda who met Jayananda out by the garbage cans and thinking if the devotee dumping the garbage is this advanced, I could just imagine what the others are like. Something like that, yeah. So, okay. So we could talk about Jayananda forever, but there's the book. It's on Amazon. Beautiful Life, Jayananda Thakur, by a devotee named Bishok. That might be also available online somewhere. I've seen PDF docs. I probably even have it on my computer. I didn't want to read so much from that book because I wanted to share my personal experience, because you can read the book, and if I just reiterated everything, I thought I wouldn't maybe do the justice I could do, but I think we made some very important points for our own bhakti, and we've been inspired by Jayananda Prabhu. So thank you for coming. It was very nice seeing all of you, and please take Jayananda in your heart today and try to be inspired by his example. Hare Krishna. We will see you later for those of you who I guess, I don't even know what I'm doing today. I know at 11 o'clock I'm going to be online somewhere. And I don't know who's going to be there. I have to find out. But we're doing a birthday party. Adi Dev, today is very depressing. I'm 70. It was, 60s are old, you know. But yesterday was the last day I was 69. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be 70. And I still think like I'm a 23. I have the mentality of like a 25-year-old. In the body of a 70-year-old. Like, this is like, you know, you're born a man, but you feel like you're a woman. So it's like, I'm like 70 and I think like, you know, a 25-year-old. This is like, oh my Krishna, this is like scary, you know. Just that letter 7 is like, that's old. At the end of Kali Yuga, you know, it's like 20, 30, you're like grandfather, you know, you're on your way out. Of course, we're supposed to live to be 100, so then 70 is like not so bad. It's like the golden years, but I don't know who's living 100 now. But anyway, it is what it is, and we're moving up there. So the needle has hit 70. So we have we're having a Zoom Vyasa Puja, I think. What did she say? I don't even, you know, like I always say, temple president is always the last one to find out what's going on. We're having a Vyasa Puja. Yeah, okay. It's good that I know that. And it's good that I have the address so that I could join also. Okay, I'll join. Sounds like a good idea. We're, at this Vyasa Puja, I want to talk about Prabhupada and my relation with Prabhupada. I don't want it to be about me. And I want to talk about what it means to be a disciple. So I'm going to try to steer it away from just focusing on me because I'm a nobody without Prabhupada, so it should focus on Prabhupada because he's the light that lights me up. And if without his light, I don't have any. I read a story, and Jayananda was in the hospital. Devotees went to the room, and on the bed was a picture of Srila Prabhupada, and Jayananda was sleeping on the floor. Oh my God, devotees asked why, and said the bed should be for Prabhupada. Such a nice bed. Hare Krishna. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. I better say goodbye now because if I don't say goodbye, well, Satyananda says, Hansarupa Prabhu in New York told me just now that he personally went to get the permit for Rath Yatra in 77, and he told the lady about Jayananda leaving, and she started to cry. Wow. Okay, that is a meditation of meditations, isn't it? Jayananda meditation. Maybe we call this class Jayananda meditation. That's a meditation when you actually think she must have seen him 10 minutes every year, and he had that much impression on her. Can you make that much impression on people in 10 minutes a year? That's a good question to ask yourself. To staying in China, your life starts at 70. And we were just, we were doing classes on death, and there's a saying something, what is death but just preparation for your next birthday party? So, but just a note, we read that Prabhupada said, when a devotee dies, it's not painful, it's not difficult, and in 1 second he's with Krishna. So, Jayananda, Prabhupada said, probably Jayananda is with Krishna because he's Krishna conscious. Well, they asked Prabhupada, where did he go? He said, well, if he had any desire, he went to the heavenly planets to enjoy, then he'll come back. He said, but as he was chanting, he went to Krishna. So that's our happiness. Jayananda Prabhu ki jai, I feel so fortunate to have had his association by some. I don't know what pious activities I did, but I had his association as a very young devotee. So that was like amazing, Thank you, Krishna, giving me that association. It is, that experience with him has shown me what it means to be selfless, egoless, humble, and to be happy doing any service and never complaining about anything. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.